Hello students, I get this repeated request from the students to make a video on the terms used in the question paper. Fine. I get this repeated request, ma'am, please make a video on the term comment, examine, elaborate, elucidate, discuss, and critically evaluate. Now the intensity at which this demand comes is very huge. Every now and then, in every class, in every session, I get this. Now, I would like to say that in case if I tell you the meaning of comment, if I tell you the meaning of evaluation, do you think that this will bring a very fundamental change in your marks? The answer is no. Though it is essential that you know the meanings, but it is not just knowing the meaning of these terms that is going to make an answer a good answer. So what is a good answer? Again, the second question comes, how to write a good answer? Unfortunately, the very day students start the preparation of UPSC, they start practicing answer writing. So first of all, to all those who are going to start the preparation of civil services, I would like to tell you one thing is, you are not going to get a good marks or you won't be able to write a good answer just because today I tell you the meaning of these terms. And the day you start any optional or GS, from that very day you cannot write a good answer, because when you reach to the answer writing stage very late, fine, you need lot of information. To write an answer, you need an information. To write an answer, you need lot of thinking, you need lot of contemplation. Fine, so I'll definitely tell the meaning of these terms, but my question is, if you know these terms, do you think you can write answer? You can write a good answer. And do you think that you have done justice. Fine. You have done justice to the question, point number 1, and you have done justice with yourself, with the amount of time, energy, efforts, and of course the aspiration of you, your family, your friends. Are you doing justice with that? Again, you won't be able to write a good answer from the very first day. Fine. So what exactly is a good answer? What is a good answer? We have to first understand this, what is a good answer, before writing a good answer. Fine. And in case you are going for civil services, it is very important that you work on your personality. The development of personality is linked to success in this examination in endless ways. But here I am talking in context of this answer writing issue, where students have time and again asked me to make the video. So, what is a good answer? Ability to write a good answer. This is again a second stage. If you are a beginner, this is not the stage that you think about what is a good answer. Right now, focus on writing a correct answer. So, the day you will develop this ability to write a correct answer, after that we will talk about good answer. So be very realistic in your targets. You should know, you should be a smart person to know at which stage of examination what you should be doing. So today or right now, I won't be talking about a good answer. I will be talking first about the correct answer. Now, you also need to understand, let's talk more on the correct answer. So, first of all, answering the question, you have to, there is a question asked in the exam and you have to write the answer of that question. Fine. Now tell me, how many of you have ever given a time to understand the process of question and answer as such? Your perspective, like, mind that I time and again tell you, your perspective about looking at the things shape how you will be implementing the things, how you will be leading any project, any action in your hand to its logical conclusion. So, first of all, when UPSC is asking a question to you and you have to answer that question, what does this process ultimately, what does the UPSC is trying to know about you? What through these questions? See, just like for every answer there is a content, there is a information, there is some philosophy. There is a philosophy behind every question also. How deep observer you are, how you look at the questions. The questions which are asked to you can be the situations that will emerge in front of you when you will join the services. And when you will join the services and the situations will emerge, how will you respond? Are you a person on whom the responsibility to run the district can be given or not? Are you a person on whom the responsibility of running a department can be given or not? Suppose you see something unexpected. Do you lose your patience? Do you lose your confidence? Do you forget everything that you have learned? Many students, they may be knowing a subject very well, but when they go to the examination hall, they can't perform. So UPSC needs performers. You have to develop the skill that you become a performer in a situation. So now let us again come back, and again I would like to tell you is the mindset that you will take to the examination hall, the mindset you have for your day-to-day life, that will matter the most. UPSC mains paper is not a game of information and memorization. How much information I have, how much memorization I have done. No, you have to give a lot to it, and it demands lot of commitment. Writing an answer demands commitment. Writing an answer demands integrity. Writing an answer demands courage. Writing an answer demands an honesty. Writing an answer demands your ability to make the fair decision. Your ability to look the things from the critical perspective. I also get a question where the students say, should I write anything against the government? There is nothing wrong if you write against the government, but wrong in the intention when you write against the government. You have to understand there is nothing perfect in this world. And if you write the government's policy wonderful like anything, there is no better policy, government has done this wonders, this automatically means you are not a right kind of a person. That is why the questions asked are critical evaluation, critical examination. So don't fear. Your paper is not going to be corrected by the politicians or the social media activist of any political party, your paper will be evaluated by the professors of the recognized universities, and we can expect integrity, we can expect academic integrity from those who are evaluating the papers. And I have never seen that UPSC evaluation has ever broken that trust which we have in that system of evaluation. So all those who are fearful writing against the government or against a policy, you have to assume that nothing is perfect in this world. And if you're trying to project something imperfect as perfect, you are not the person with the right attitude and the right mindset, and you are not writing an answer on the Facebook or a social media site. You are writing an answer which is going to be evaluated by the academicians of the competent capacity. Every academics has its own set of norms and values. Okay, so now writing an answer, question and answer, writing an answer, question and answer. So first of all, we have to understand the very first thing in the question is, or while writing the answer is, what is asked in the question. What is, you must have heard about the doctrine of pith and substance in your Indian polity, and you have also must have studied about the doctrine of colorable legislation. Fine. Doctrine of pith and substance, I am not going to tell you in detail. Let us understand anything, its core. And colorable legislation is trying to give color. Fine, doing something which is not expected. Fine, I am not going into the technicality of not doing directly, indirectly. That's not my purpose. So, first thing is, for any question, you have to understand the pith and the substance. What is the core point on which the question revolves? Pith and substance. And what happens when you don't apply, when you don't understand the core of anything? Your answer turns out to be an example of a colorable exercise of your information. So in the past few days, I have gone through the answers of some of the students in the answer writing and the test evaluations, and I found that most of the students don't focus on the pith and substance. The problem is most of the students don't know. When we know what we are going to do, we can do it in a proper way. When we don't know what we have to do and we have not been enlightened in a proper manner, obviously we can't perform. And the second thing is, some of us may be knowing and applying, but majority may be remaining ignorant. When I'm ignorant about a good answer, how will I write a good answer? I hope the students of political science at least know this statement of Socrates: knowledge is virtue. Okay? So whatever we are studying, you should know to apply that. Knowledge is virtue. Fine. I want that whatever you study, let us say in political philosophy or in ethics, why don't you apply in what you do? Your actions, your way of life reflect your knowledge, your values. So, knowledge is virtue. Virtue means excellence. Writing an excellent answers will require the knowledge of excellent answers, and without gaining the knowledge, without contemplating, we start doing the things and we don't get the required results. And when the required results do not come, we are at pain. So knowledge is virtue, virtue is an excellence, and excellence gives us happiness. So when we see good marks, you get happiness or not. So the end of writing a good answer is happiness. But for that you have to gain excellence. And how will you gain an excellence? By gaining the knowledge. Now, understanding, let us understand what is knowledge. I must tell you that the reason I am making a video today, I must acknowledge, is when I have gone through the answer scripts of some of the students who requested that, ma'am, please go through my answer scripts and give me the suggestions. And this has given me an instant reason that I must go and talk to the students, because you all are putting a lot of your energy, time and money, and maybe because of the lack of understanding, you all are putting a lot of efforts, but those efforts are not getting transformed into the results. Maybe as a somewhere you don't know, or you may be missing out the entire concept of an answer. So this entire session, I have not planned anything, but in my mind, how will I tell you what all no, nothing. But I think let us go for it step by step and understand what all will be and how we can write a good answer. So I think, why not start with this view? Let us have knowledge is virtue or source of excellence. So if I want excellence in my answers, I should have a knowledge of what constitutes a good answer, what are the components of good answer. Fine. So I should have the knowledge of what constitute a good answer. Fine. So, my question is, just do you think information, just a collection of information, do you equate information with knowledge? More information if I have, does that mean I'll be able to write a good answer? Like I keep on telling the students, stick to the class notes. There is no need to refer the material, but again, students keep on asking which website for international relations, which extra book for theory, which book for Indian polity. I feel that these questions, the students asking these questions, show their lack of seriousness or the lack of knowledge about what they should be doing, what are the areas where they should be really concerned rather than what they are doing and wasting time. To write a good answer, you don't have to search material after material. Knowing the basics of anything, having a conceptual clarity of anything is sufficient. You cannot make notes of 10,000 pages. Fine. Each and every topic is so vast. You need to develop the techniques. You need to develop the skills. There we do not focus. We run after the information. But running after the information and collecting huge information, I will say it is going to create more harm than the gains. I remember one of my student, Mirant Parekh, he cleared UPSC, got 41 rank I suppose in the very first attempt, and he prepared after prelims. Still he could manage the situation, and in one of his videos he held that your knowledge, your information is actually inversely proportional to the marks you have. And I believe many of the students may not have understood what he means to say, but I would like to tell you what he meant to say was that don't run after the information and focus more on contemplation. Fine. So information and memorization is not going to give you ability or a skill to write answer. Fine. It is not the range of information rather the depth of information. Which is important, and UPSC does not test your memory, your power of memorization. Had UPSC been testing your power of memorization, then there are so many medicines available in the market, from Shankh Pushpi to what all, you have it and you can clear the exam. No, UPSC wants to test your intellectual traits. So it's very important to know all these things, and I am not telling it according to my view or Socrates' view or Plato's view. This is very clearly mentioned in the UPSC notification. Go through that pages of UPSC syllabus, go through the mains GS. These are the instructions which are mentioned. These are the things where you should have focused on rather than running after the information. I number of times I get this question, IR is very dynamic, I take classes this year, so next year what will happen? Next year what will happen? Suppose India and Britain, there are certain fundamentals, na? Why India is important for Britain, why Britain is important for India. So suppose this year Boris Johnson is supposed to come, he didn't come. If he comes next year, it is not going to make the difference. So run for the gaining the basics of anything and not just the collection of the facts and the memorization of the facts. And UPSC is not looking for the range of information, rather the depth and the not memorization but intellectual trait. This I am not saying, this is itself mentioned in the syllabus given by the UPSC in its notification. Now, let us open up the intellectual traits. I am not here referring to any psychologist and having any standard definition of that. Intellectual traits. Every human being is an intellectual. God has given us reason, but the only problem is very few of us apply. We ourselves can find out what exactly is the intellectual trait. Fine. So intellectual traits. Today, an intellectual trait is not, I'll say it's not just an IQ, it is also your social intelligence, it is also your emotional intelligence. Fine. For example, you see a paper, you see something new and you lose your confidence. I can tell you nothing will come outside this world. I have never seen a question which is not in the syllabus. I am talking about the mains paper. I have very deeply analyzed the questions, and again, students are so much concerned. I'll say it's like being busy without business. You are running after the current, but you are missing the concepts. Even if the current questions you cannot answer without the concepts. So first is your emotional intelligence will play a role in writing a good answer. When you see something new, don't think you have not read. If not in optional, you must have read somewhere in GS. If the question in GS, you must have read in your optional, you must have read in your class, in your schools. Why have this negative mindset that I have not read, I don't know, I am not capable of writing, I am not capable of thinking logically on it? Again, I'll say, Social intelligence. Social intelligence means here in this context that when you write an answer, your answer should reflect your sensitivity, your empathy, if not empathy, at least sympathy towards the weaker sections, towards the vulnerable sections, because that is why you are expected to write the balanced answers. I am very surprised that we all say what is a balanced answer, and we just know certain words, but we don't know the meanings of those words. We don't have patience to understand and contemplate the meanings of those words. Balanced answer, 2 points in favor and 2 points in opposition doesn't make an answer balanced. A balanced answer, a balanced opinion doesn't mean you have to write 5 merits and 5 demerits. A student asks me, please tell me the demerit of something. If something does not have a demerit, or if I cannot think about it, I cannot tell. So it's not balancing, it is not 3 minus 3 and you are balancing. The balanced view is, this view should be the right view. Balance is not 13 minus 3 equals to 10. Fine. So it is not just a quantitative process. Balanced means your judgment, the balanced view. It is suggested have a balanced view in the answer. The balanced view in the answer is your answer should be rational. Your answer should appear rational. Answer should appear rational means answer should not appear biased. You should not be biased in your opinion. Try to balance the interests. Don't get biased, but things have to be based on rationality. At the same time, since you are going to join the civil services, it is very important that despite the fact you go for a rational basis of anything, it is expected that your answer and arguments are tilted towards the betterment of the weaker sections. This is not called a biased answer if your answer is your idea is something that helps the weaker section and the vulnerable section. Fine, but that has to be a rationalized thing. So have a social intelligence. The answers should not be such. Let us say if I am writing about uniform civil code and have a balanced answer, this is not a good answer that I say these are the arguments in favor, these are the arguments again. In the end, we should focus on this, that, and no. What is right? Take the right position. The state stands for the protection of the weaker sections because the strong can protect themselves. The dominant can protect themselves and that's why they are dominant. The vulnerable cannot protect themselves, that's why they are vulnerable. So a person, a good civil servant, has to be sensitive, has to be emotional, but not irrationally, emotionally intelligent. Reflect when you write an answer on climate change, when you write an answer on the self-help groups, when you write an answer on uniform civil code or anything else, you have to see there are like the answers give you a lot of opportunities, be it an answer of mains or be it an answer of interviews, and it is your intelligence whether you will able to capitalize on that opportunities or not. Obviously IQ means, I'll say, your answer has to be rational, your answer has to be logical. So ultimately so much depends upon your attitude towards something. Fine. So it is, I have read somewhere that it is not the altitude, comma, it is the attitude that matters. Howsoever big and difficult a problem is, howsoever high a mountain is, what matters is attitude. So always emphasize on develop the right kind of attitudes, right kind of attitude, right kind of value system, have right kind of intellectual, right kind of personality, develop and intellectual traits. And writing an answer is a very, I'll say, when you write an answer, it is a formal, you have to understand, when you write an answer writing is something formal. It is a formal work. It is a formal task. The entire exam is so formal. Fine. So you can't, answer writing is a formal task. You can't be casual. Fine. You can't be casual about your presentation. Your presentation look attractive to the person. Fine. So if you do not have a good writing, try to develop that. Your answer should be a presentation. Presentation is, first is, it should be neat and clean, because it is a common psychology. If I get something dirty, cutting, overwriting, this spoils my mood in the very beginning. Fine. So it should be work not just on information, work on your presentation. First thing is neat and clean. Sometimes we miss that certain very simple things. We feel that we will put lot of scholars and lot of theories and it will show I am a very intellectual person. You may be an intellectual person but not the type required for UPSC, maybe a type required in JNU or DU or Harvard. Fine. For example, there is one scholar, Hannah Arendt, in political science. She wrote in her diaries in a very unorganized way. So she became a philosopher, she became a professor. But that type of intellectual that I know 20 scholars I will vomit on the paper, that is not going to help, because for this job that intellectual trait is not needed. That is an intellectual trait, but that philosopher vara intellectual trait is not needed here. Fine. So your mind that focus on minute things, important, they are minute but they are important. Your answer should be neat and clean. Your, if possible, try to improve your handwriting. Writing a lot but nobody is able to understand is again a wastage of your efforts. Fine. So okay, you may not work, you may not drastically transform your handwriting, but at least you can try. You have to develop the surviving skills. I see this generation, you prefer writing, instead of writing you all prefer typing, but the UPSC prefers writing, handwritten things. So at least keep on reforming yourself. Now comes your, like, the answer has to be systematic. But what I see, most of the students, instead of writing systematic answer, their answer is so chaotic. Without systematic answer, you have to understand that your answer has to be systematic and not chaotic. Means you should have a planning. When you have an answer, you should already have some planning in your mind. Fine. There has to be planning. As an administrator, this is needed. Fine. Can you accomplish any task without planning? There has to be planning of the entire answer. You should know how to start, what to say in the start, what to discuss in detail, and I must know where my answer should be heading. I must know the point I am going to make in writing the answer. So again, I find many questions very relevant, how an answer of GS differs from an answer of political science or optional. So people waste a lot of time on all these things and don't do what is minimum required. Answer always depends on the question. The type of the questions asked in general studies will be more factual or will be such which can be answered by the people from different background, and we don't require the any specialized background. Fine. And the nature of the questions in optional will automatically be different. So the answers are going to be different. Rather than thinking I am writing an optional answer, I am writing this answer, that answer, knowledge is so multidimensional. Even in on GS paper, it's not that when you write an economic answer, you may be requiring some concepts of politics. So you have to plan. Students tell me, like, one major problem is my answer is lacking flow. Flow will come. How a flow can come? You the moment you see the question, you start writing. No, you need thinking. Contemplation is very important. So this problem that the answer does not have a flow, flow will come only when you will plan your answer, then the flow will come. Without planning, how will you have a flow? In fact, you have to think about the conclusion first. What you are going to write in the conclusion, your conclusion gives directions to your answer. Your conclusion, if you are clear with the conclusion and if you orient your ideas towards the conclusion, then comes the flow in the answer. So first of all, you will have to plan it out. The examiner is not just looking for how much information you have digested. Fine, but they want to see a person. They want a person who knows how to execute things in a proper manner with the limited resources. Knowing lot and then writing a good answer is not intelligence. Knowing even less and getting good marks is an intelligence, I will say. So you can also see that the success rate in the first attempt is high because the students have less information and less time, less information, and they try to present it. All those with the limited information trying to present it properly have gained the marks. So there is a saying of Kabir, पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जग मुआ और पंडित हुआ न कोई. Fine, understand that reading books, 10 books, this is not going to help. Fine, so what Kabir has said, पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जग मुआ और पंडित हुआ न कोई. So there is no relation between पोथी and पंडित. ठीक है. और ढाई आखर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित होए. फाइन. बहुत पढ़ने से आप अच्छा आंसर लिख पाएंगे ऐसा नहीं है. ढाई आखर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित होए. There is so much wisdom in India. What a beautiful definition of an intellectual trait. Fine, so my point is that by reading a lot, you don't write a good answer. By putting a lot of information, you don't write a good answer. But you have to love to do something nicely. You have to love it. Love your work. You love your goal. Fine. feel yourself attached to what you are studying. Feel attachment with your answer. Fine. Read your answer, that this feeling of love will itself bring the fineness in your answers which you are looking for. Fine. But what I have seen, majority of you don't write with love, you write with fear. When I evaluate a question answer, I can understand the psychology of the student at that point of time, what is going on in the mind. You don't have to tell anything, you write something, what is going on in your mind we can understand. So the students write an answer, they write, most of you don't write answers. I'm telling you, most of you do not write answer. You only write certain statements. So certain statements about a topic asked in a question, plus even if they are the correct statements, they don't make an answer. Fine. So you have to give your touch to that answer. You have to put lot of substance to that particular answer. You have to give a shape to that answer. So writing an answer is like a fine art. I can understand whether a student is involved or not. Your answer should reflect your sense of involvement and engagement with the topic. So remember that writing 20 correct lines related to a topic, still you won't be able to create a beautiful picture which can be created if you will put little efforts. So what I request you to have a sense of involvement in writing an answer. First, have patience. Developing a skill and writing an answer need a patience. Learning anything needs an patience. It needs a lot of efforts, it needs a lot of practice. So first, when you look at a question, understand the issue and the demand. See, all human beings are emotional. We have emotions. So see what influences you. A beautiful piece of a writing. Why we like the writing of some scholars, for example, Pratap Bhanu Mehta or C. Raja Mohan or Shashi Tharoor or others, because style, try to understand what is there in the style. There is a flow, they can keep a writer engaged. If I write one line, the second line should create an intellectual curiosity in the person who is writing my answer. And it should be, you can say, music to the ears, what you say. It should be a feast to your eyes. You have to touch the mind, heart and mind of an examiner, that he gets influenced and give you an marks. He is compelled to give you an marks. For that you have to do practice, you have to do a lot of thinking. So, first of all, understand this is the main issue. Then understand how will I present that issue? What will be my conclusion of that issue? We can, for example, we can pick up any question. Fine. For example, maybe there was a question once, what France can learn from Indian secularism. Fine. What France can learn from Indian secularism? Let us add that discuss, yeah, let us add critically examine the salient features of Indian model of secularism. So suppose this is the question asked, we have to first understand what is going to be the key components of my answer, what France can learn from Indian secularism, and critically examine. Regarding critically examine, there is also one very big confusion among the students. Let's talk about these terms first, and then I'll tell you how to plan that. Critically examine many students think critically examine means criticisms. Many students think that critically examine doesn't mean criticism. Critically means rationally examine. So critical examine means logically examine something. You can understand its pros and cons, rationally understand something. So rationally, when you understand, you may not find anything wrong. Suppose if I tell you Gandhi favored democratic decentralization, critically examine. So many students will come and they will try to make an extra effort to find out the negative aspects of democratic decentralization. No, critically examine is not criticism. Critically examine means logical analysis. Fine. So logical analysis. It is simply be logical. Fine. Logical analysis means that analysis should not be biased, that analysis should be logical. Now certain words, while I started the discussion, I mentioned certain words. Let us first, the word I told you just now, the question is critically examine. That only means rational analysis, yeah, rational or logical analysis. examine its pros, cons, look for understanding the theme into detail, fine, but anything has to be logical. It cannot be illogical. You cannot make illogical arguments, fine. It should not be biased arguments. Then sometimes it is also written as critically evaluate. Critically evaluate and critically examine, not much difference. Critical examination means logical analysis. Now, what extra evaluation can be means critical examination plus give some logical conclusion or suggestion or a way forward. Fine. So most of the time the question will be on these two things. Now next, sometimes students don't understand the meaning of comment. Comment means you should examine the entire question and present your point of view. Fine. Comment. Comment means in Hindi टिप्पणी करें, मतलब put forward your understanding of something. Fine. Comment. Comment on, suppose I make a statement, Indian model of secularism is better than American or French model. Comment. Fine. So you have to comment on that statement. Suppose the statement I make that the Indian model of secularism is better than French model. This is a statement on which I have to comment. I have to put my position, but my position, how will I comment? First of all, I will write what is secularism, what are the Indian features of Indian secularism, what are the French secularism, and then I will write a comment. If I think French model is good, if I think Indian model is good, so I have to write a comment. Fine. I have to write what is my position. So again, examiner is looking by your comment, is looking your ability to understand the things and your values, the position. Comment is like you take the position on this. Indian constitution, a cornerstone of a nation. Take a position on that. That is called comment. Now, the terms discuss, describe, elaborate, elucidate, illustrate, so discuss, we discuss something. Fine. What we are doing, what I am doing, I am discussing answer writing skill with you. Fine. So discussing, looking things deeply, looking things from different dimensions. Fine. So discussing things. One more word often is attached, explain. So discussing and explain can be quite similar. In fact, most of these words are very similar. Fine. So explain, discuss something. Fine. For example, you discuss a bill in parliament. You read a bill, you discuss. First, what are the main features, and then again have a debate on the different dimensions of it. That is called discuss. Describe, elaborate on it, describe it. Fine. Describe the features of right to privacy. What are the features? Describe the salient features of right to privacy in India. So you are describing, you are trying to write it elaborately. Describe is a sort of explanation. Describe kare. Describe the features of Himalayan mountains, Himalaya. Fine, it is this much height, it is this much colored, it is this. Describe it. Fine. Elaborate means, for example, I gave you one statement. I suppose I give you one statement that electoral bonds are not contributing to bring the fairness in the electoral system. So elaborate your point. In how do you say what is electoral bond? How do you say electoral bonds do not bring the fairness, or whether it is wrong to say so? Elaborate on it. Fine. I may have told you something in precise. You have to write in a more elaborate manner, in a more detailed manner. So elaboration will be detailed discussion is elaboration. Fine. Elucidate means throw light on something. Again, elucidate, throw light. Philosophers form the best rulers. Elucidate, throw light on it. You can throw light with the help of examples. So elucidate and illustrate means write with the help of examples. Critically examine, logically examine, evaluating reach to position. Comment, again, what is your perspective. Discuss means look into from different dimension. Describe it is more explain it, elaborate it, detailed view. Elucidate, throw light on something. Illustrate, give examples. But again, after this discussion, I'll tell you that these differences do not matter much. What matters is you adopt a simple style. You will go for explaining the basics of anything, elaborate on something, look into the pros and cons, and look for a conclusion. But at the same time, you should have a flow in your answer. Flow will come when you will plan and when you will already decide the conclusion. Flow will not come while writing. Only overwriting will happen. Only cutting will happen if you will not plan. And again, I am saying examiner is not just checking your information, they are also checking how you deal with particular situation, how what type of a personality you are. Do you have a clear vision? क्या आप एक सुलझे व्यक्ति हैं? क्या आपकी बात दूसरे को अच्छे से समझ में आती है? क्या आप दूसरे को, दूसरा ने कुछ कहा वो बात आप समझ पाते हैं, या आपकी बात दूसरे लोग समझ पाते हैं? और किस तरीके से आप वो बात करते हैं कि क्या आप जो बात कर रहे हैं उसमें दूसरा सुनने वाला वो कोई इंटरेस्ट लेता है? हम कोटेशंस क्यों लिखते हैं? टू जनरेट द इंटरेस्ट, ठीक है? तो अल्टीमेटली कम्युनिकेशन इज स्किल, एंड रिमेंबर माई मंत्रा दैट information is not going to help you in writing an answer. Your thinking is going, your attitude is going to write an answer. And no answer is difficult. It's not an altitude, it is an attitude. And remember, पोथी पढ़ पढ़ जग मुआ और पंडित, पोथी पढ़ने से पंडित नहीं बनते हैं, उस चीज़ को समझ के, उस चीज़ के ट्रेट्स को डेवलप करके तब हम पंडित बनते हैं. Anyway, I took one question just for a sample, like what France can learn from Indian model of secularism, and critically examine the features of Indian secularism. ठीक है? So now I have, whenever I'll see this question, I have to first think what all will form the pith and substance of my answer. So what France can learn from Indian secularism. So I have to know what is French secularism, why the need has arisen, that they learn from India, and what are the salient features of Indian model of secularism. Plus I have to take one position on this topic as to whether France needs to learn from India or whether both need to learn from each other. So the position I will take in the end, that can also matter. Fine. So first of all, I have to prepare the skeleton of my answer. Fine. That the skeleton of my answer will be, means I need to know what is the salient features of French model, then why this question, why the need for France to learn, what is there in Indian model. Fine. What aspect France has to learn and why, how it will benefit France, how it will benefit France, and then a last summing up, or the last line, whether only France need to learn, or from India, or even India needs to learn. Fine. So should learning ever stop, you have to show your approach. So first of all, understand that these are the essential components without which I will not get marks. ठीक है? This will form the heart and soul or pith and substance, and then I have to put it a good shape. I have to plan पहले कैसे लिखना है, सेक्युलरिज्म की बात तक क्यों कैसे पहुंचना है, हमको प्लानिंग करनी पड़ेगी कि हमें इसको कैसे लिखना है, इस पूरे क्वेश्चन को कैसे ऐसा मेरा आंसर नहीं लगना चाहिए कि कोई माला है और उसके मोती इधर उधर बिखरे हुए हैं, ठीक है, बल्कि एक उसको हम कैसे एक लड़ में उसको पिरो सकते हैं कि दैट बिकम्स अ गुड बुके और अ गुड माला. फाइन. तो एक प्लानिंग करनी है, एंड व्हेन यू लव इट यू विल फील इंटरेस्ट. आपको उसमें एक इंटरेस्ट आएगा चीज़ों को करने में. तो सबसे पहले ये सारा इशू, व्हाई इज दिस इशू, you have to think what is the contemporary relevance of all these things, what is the issue here, why all these things are, why is this question. आपकी सोच कहाँ से कहाँ तक जाने वाली है, आप कहाँ से चीज़ों को सोचना स्टार्ट करते हैं. Do you have a broad perspective of looking at the things? So you can say that in the present time we see there has been a growth of sectarian violence everywhere. Even one of the most advanced democracies like France have not remained untouched. In the past there have been incidents, you can write certain incidents, you can write about Charlie Hebdo's incident, you can write about a person killing the teacher or whatever, try to contextualize this issue. So this will give an impression to the examiner that you understand, and this is how you look at a thing. चीज़ों को कहाँ से, उस चीज़ की क्या इम्पोर्टेंस है, और यू हैव टू बिल्ड अ स्टोरी. चीज़ों को एक लिंक है, चीज़ों की एक स्टोरी बिल्ट अप करनी है. तो फ्रॉम वेयर विल यू स्टार्ट? ग्रोथ ऑफ सेक्टेरियनिज्म. नाउ इफ दिस सेक्टेरियन वायलेंस continues, is it good or bad? Obviously it is bad, because these things may impact the law and order. And if anarchy comes, nobody's life will be secure. So if it's a general studies answer, write in a general sense. If you are an optional student, suppose you are a political science optional student, then you can write about anarchy through Hobbes, that in the state of nature this question can come. And then you should know how to change the paragraphs. Then you should write that secularism is a modern concept originated in the West as experience of the 30 years war as a solution how people belonging to the different religion and culture can live together in peace and harmony. So you have to explain that you understand the rationale behind the topic you are going to discuss, and then quickly link to that in recent time there has been a question mark on the French model of secularism. Now what's the French model of secularism? Called laicite or a strict separation. Again, the debates have emerged because of French government's instructions that the Muslim woman should not be wearing veil in the public. And then you can say that such type of pronouncements and all are creating the tensions, sectarian conflicts, clash of civilizations and all these things. And the worst thing is that it always harms the common man, and it leads to the radicalization of the society. And then you link it with India. So it seems that the French model also needs an introspection. India can be a good place because India is an example of a extremely diverse country along with poverty, colonial past, but we have been able to manage the situation democratically, and to some extent Indian model of secularism is it can be a beacon of light, and then highlight the Indian model of secularism, but don't vomit everything that you know about Indian model of secularism. So apart from the other features, the Indian model of secularism is based on the idea of multiculturalism, human dignity, protecting the rights of minorities, accepting unity in diversity. We have not gone for introducing or enforcing the Uniform Civil Code. We have given the freedom to the minorities to respect and to preserve their culture. So ultimately, the Indian model is based on the spirit of toleration, accommodation. Maybe the French model needs to be tuned. The old model of strict separation, or whatever detail you know, single citizenship and all, may not work. Because why it will not work? The time has changed, the context has changed, and if what then explain the rationale of the reform, that if you don't reform something, it becomes irrelevant. And in the end you can say that it is true, there is lot France can learn from India, but it doesn't mean that everything is perfect in India. So every country needs to continuously improve its ideals, its this thing in the direction of making a world a better living place. So how you approach an answer, try to show the flow of an answer. So I hope this discussion has helped you a lot, and as many of you wanted to tell me about difference between criticism and all these things. And again I am telling that what is more important is you start developing the right way of thinking before developing an ability to write answer. Thank you.